Hey everyone, I'm Majin Bay, and welcome into a very, very special episode of World Tour Weekly, your one-stop shop for all competitive Flesh and Blood news. Not only did we just get the biggest tournament of the year, but we also got a ton of very exciting announcements on what's coming up in the world of Flesh and Blood. We got a reveal of not only just the new set, Compendium of Wraith, but some really cool things that are going to be in the set. The set itself is labeled a premium supplementary booster set featuring support for all classes, heroes, and talents. If you just joined the game recently, you may not be aware what supplementary sets are. They're basically sets geared entirely towards constructed play and not draftable. This means that instead of using slots for draft playable cards, LSS can use those slots to help already existing heroes and archetypes. Now, if you're like me and your ears perked up at the word premium, you'll probably be pretty excited to see some of the cool stuff that's coming in the Antiquities packs included in a box of Compendium. Looks pretty premium to me. Fun fact, this is my actual real-time reaction when I saw this card revealed and realized how much I was going to spend trying to get it. Compendium isn't just designed around classic constructed heroes and forcing me to bling out my Kano deck though. It's also specifically designed to support the Silver Age format. To quote the article, there is a staggering amount of new gear in this set, including this chess piece, which I'm sure is busted, I just can't quite figure out how yet. The set is also going to have one extra rare in every pack and a chance to hit 3 cold foils per box. The full set will be revealed at the world premiere in London on February 6th. Speaking of Silver Age, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of the new Silver Age pre-constructed decks will be releasing alongside Compendium. If you somehow haven't heard of these are going to be $20 tournament-ready pre-constructed decks for the new Silver Age format. Speaking of Silver Age, LSS dropped a pretty big bombshell when they announced that instead of using the Living Legend system, Silver Age's hero legality is going to be handled by community vote. I've never actually seen anything like this before, so it's going to be interesting how it plays out in practice. Early access Silver Age events are also going to be running from November to January, with the Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 decks hitting the shelves February 13th. We also got a glimpse of the new Armory deck Origins Hala, featuring Hala Blade Saint of the Vow. It's going to be releasing April 17th next year. Moving on to World Tour announcements, we got pretty shocking news that Battle Hardens are going to be going away. To add a bit of context, the article discusses how LSS wants to narrow in on what actually constitutes as a World Tour visit. They then add that starting with the release of the next set, every stop on the World Tour is going to feature a calling tournament. There are also some serious changes to the World Tour point system, which we're going to be going over soon. In the article Battle Hardened 2 Showdown, LSS announces that Battle Hardens will be retired and Showdowns will be replacing them. These will typically take place on Sundays and have an increased prize pool of $5,000. They also have extra gold foil prizes, which extends to the top 4. For me, this is a pretty big change. Battle Hardens alone have been pretty tough for me to justify as a player for a while now. I absolutely love playing events, but with only one gold foil and a lower prize pool, it's really hard for me to justify the cost of traveling. These showdowns seem to be much higher value, which means that I can justify going to more events, which I very much want to do. Showdowns will also be entirely dedicated to supporting the Silver Age format for all of 2026, making me think that I probably need to actually get good at this format. At the very end of the article, it mentions that as the Battle Hardened tournament series is wrapping up, you can expect to see history of Battle Hardened participation promos throughout January. The World Tour point system is also getting a revamp, with points being associated with the season in which they were won. Seasons are going to be related to the standalone booster set that was released during that time. So for example, we would currently be in the Super Slam season. These seasonal metrics won't have any impact on the Player of the Year race, but they are going to be relevant for determining Pro Tour and World Championship qualifications. More specifically, when speaking of qualifications, World Tour points are going to be replacing ELO as the ways that FAB players are ranked. Starting with Pro Tour Yokohama, top ranked players are going to be given an invite based on their World Tour points ranking. For Pro Tour Yokohama specifically, invites are going to be determined by the total points from the 2025 World Tour season. After that, invitations will be determined by a player's current season's World Tour points, as well as the 2 most recently completed seasons points as well. They supply an example saying that invitations for Pro Tour Las Vegas, which is happening in July of next year, will be handed out right after Pro Tour Yokohama. They're going to be comprised of the World Tour points gained in the Compendium of Wraith, Super Slam, and High Seas seasons. For Pro Tour Yokohama, player invites are going to be handed out to the top 50 globally ranked players, as well as the top 25 from the Asia Pacific region. Also mentioned is that they intend to provide region-based incentive for the players that live in the region where the tournament is being held. That's why Pro Tour Yokohama has extra Asia Pacific invites, and we can expect Pro Tour Las Vegas to have extra Americas invites. And lastly, from the Compendium season onwards, the only events that are going to be giving World Tour points are World Championships, Pro Tours, Callings, and Showdowns. Alright, that was a ton of info, and we haven't even talked about the tournament yet, so let's get on that in today's Metagame Minute. We knew what the top 3 decks of the format were going to be, and to nobody's surprise, Syndra, Verdance, and Gravy Bones were the 3 most represented classic constructed heroes of the World Championship. What is surprising is that it ended up almost being more of a top 2, with Syndra and Verdance both having over double the representation that Gravy Bones had. Below our regulars, there's a strong contingent of heroes with a respectable amount of meta representation, like Prism, Kasai, KO Armed and Dangerous, Dio, Acilio, and Arachne Marionette. Flipping over to the Living Legend breakdown, you'll see that Bravo, Star of the Show, and Viserai were pretty ahead of the pack. I 100% expected Viserai to be the most represented deck, so it was a bit shocking to see Starvo in the top spot instead. Marlin showed up in some pretty good numbers, which isn't super surprising to the people who have been paying attention to the Living Legend format. But I have to imagine that anyone who doesn't was probably shocked to see the Ranger that struggles so much in CC succeed here in LL. Below those 3 are Dash.io, which would mostly be made up of the Art of War combo deck that eventually took down the event, and Chain, which put 4 copies into the top 8. I wanted to shout out to whoever brought Acilio and Verdance to the event. You were brave enough to do what I wished I could. Also, 6 players registered Gravy Bones in the event. Make sure that you remember that number. Shifting over to the Day 2 field, you'll see that Starvo and Viserai still lead the pack with the most copies in the event. But if you take a look at the Gravy Bones number, 5 of the original 6 copies made it into Day 2, a staggering conversion rate. A couple more off-meta picks did solid as well, with a copy of Prism, Dash.IE, Icelander, Verdance, and Victor making the cutoff. On the classic constructed side, it is no surprise to see Syndra, Verdance, and Gravy once again at the top of the field, with 34, 22, and 18 copies advancing respectively. It may look like Gravy didn't do as well as the other 2 format pillars, but since there were only 32 of the Necromancer to start with, he had an absolutely insane conversion rate of over 50%. Arachne Marionette is the next highest converting hero. Pretty impressive considering they were only the 9th most popular deck at the tournament. Also, I think if you'd have told me a few months ago that an Arachne Huntsman would make Day 2 of Worlds, I'm not sure I would have believed you, but here we are. Pretty impressive stuff. Moving over to the top 8 bracket, you'll see a pretty familiar name there, but don't worry, we'll get to it later. More importantly, there were 2 Gravy Bones, 3 Verdance, 1 Syndra, 1 KO Armed and Dangerous, and 1 Prism in top 8 for Classic Constructed. On the Living Legend half, we had 4 Chain, 1 Viserai, 1 Bravo Star of the Show, 1 Marlin, and 1 Dash.io. Alright, that wraps up our metagame breakdown. Let's talk champions in today's weekend winners. Alright, let's start with the big one. My fellow Team PCG Invasion teammate Michael Yasker is our new 2025 World Champion. He played Syndra in Classic Constructed and the terrifying Art of War Dio combo deck in Living Legend. At the Calling event in Philadelphia, Sunny Yang took it down playing Zen, Tamer of Purpose. And for this event, we had 2 different Battle Hardens. The first was won by Shoma Yamamura on Kasai, and the second by Alex Vore on Acilio Constella Intelligence. With a strong finish at Worlds, Brody Spurlock locked up not only the Player of the Year for the Americas region, but also the overall Player of the Year award for 2025 with 157 points. In second place was Michael Fang with 97 points, and in third, Michael Hamilton with 91 points. Jacob Clemens was first place in the Europe region and second place overall with 136 points. Tommaso Vecito took second in the Europe region with 92 points, and Arthur Trehay took third with 68. In the Asia Pacific race, Justin Koo secured first place with 72 points, followed by Pudding Tam with 61 points in second, and Shiroi Wu with 59 points in third. Congratulations once again to all of our weekend winners. Okay, I really want to showcase Michael Yasker's insane Dio combo turn, but it's quite long and there's a ton of game actions, so I'm going to be doing a lot of cutting while talking over what's going on. It's absolutely nuts. Let's take a look. Okay, I'm going to have to mute the casters here. They do a great job, but I am going to have do too many cuts and explain too much information in a short period of time. So, Michael Yasker goes to exactly 1 after blocking out with his armor. He's got a couple of items on the board, but hasn't been able to really send anything back yet this game. Now, this Dash.io deck looks to combine high octane, a lot of zero cost boost cards, and things like Art of War and System Reset to push over the top in one big turn, one big kill. Now, Michael Yasker does not have the high octane yet, so he's going to use the optical monocle to opt and start looking for it. He doesn't find the high octane on top, but he does find the 3rd copy of Cerebellum Processor, giving him a 2nd action point and all the items he needs to combo off. He starts opting looking for the high octane. He does see something he wants on the top, so he uses the cash-in in his arsenal to draw 2 cards, finding a Tome of Fendal and an Art of War, letting him dig even deeper. Keeps looking for the high octane, cashes in his last opt off the monocle, uses an Art of War to give all of his attacks +1 and banish a boost attack and draw 2 cards. First one, another Art of War, and the second one, not high octane still. Keeps digging with a 2nd Art of War. Boost attack, still no high octane, uses a Cerebellum Processor to dig 1 deeper, and there it is, the high octane. He plays it, drawing him another card, and now all of his boost attacks will gain him 1 additional action point. Sacrifices Heavy Industry Power Plant. Now every time he boosts, he'll gain 1 resource as well. Stubby Hammers gives everything with 3 or less base attack +1, so all of his attacks are going to gain him resources, gain him action points, and will attack for a ton. Fast and Furious, for example, here comes in for 7. Sends a data link, this time for 6. Next up, a T-Bone. You can see that every time he boosts, he gets another resource and another action point, up to 4 now. Draws a card off Processor, draws another card off the 3rd Processor, plays the 3rd Art of War, drawing 2 more cards, sends a 0 to 60 for 7. T-Bone plays Tome of Fendal to draw 2 more cards, more boost attacks, another 0 to 60, and Yasker's got System Reset still in hand. He can likely go through his entire deck this turn, and Dilks packs it up. What a ridiculous turn after going all the way to 1. Here's another fun fact for you. My testing team was so scared of this Dio deck that we bought every copy of Amulet of Echoes that Philadelphia local stores own. That way we could all play 3 in our sideboard. Okay, normally I don't talk too much about my own tournament runs on this show. It's supposed to be more of a overview of the entirety of competitive Flesh and Blood. But it's my show and I top 8'd Worlds, so we're going to talk about it. That's right, I made top 8 of the World Championship, which still doesn't quite feel real to me. It does, however, mean that we have another legendary gold foil to open, so stay tuned for that. I decided to bring Verdance in Classic Constructed, which should be completely unsurprising to anyone who has seen me at an event in the last 6 months. I've registered her at almost every single competitive event since she started to gain any kind of meta relevancy, and I've done pretty well with the hero. This was kind of a no-brainer bring to me. When your favorite deck is one of the best decks, you just shut up and play it. On the other hand, finding my Living Legend deck was actually really difficult. I started off wanting to play whatever the strongest deck in the format was, trying to give myself the best chance to top the event, but it wasn't always super obvious what the best deck actually was. Matchups in Living Legend can be a lot more swingy than they are in Classic Constructed due to how powerful the cards and heroes are. This can make it a lot more difficult to figure out how everything fits in. I was pretty sold on Marlin very early into the testing process since she disrupts her opponents, plays a lot of blues, and draws a ton of cards. I wasn't completely on board though, so I tried basically every deck in the format. Nothing was quite sticking with me though. Everything seemed to have some really bad matchups or wasn't really enjoyable for me to play for some reason. Eventually I locked Marlin since it was the day before deck submission and I was running out of time. I then realized that I hadn't played a ton of games against Chain in this testing cycle since players didn't seem to be very high on the hero right now. I handed my good buddy Peter Bedensic the Chain deck while I played Marlin, and he effortlessly crushed me 3 times in a row. I swapped decks to something else, and he crushed me again. I finally got so frustrated that I just told him to give me the Chain deck. So thank you, Peter, for accidentally pushing me to play Chain at Worlds. You helped me make top 8. Speaking of pushing, you might have noticed that I was being pushed around in a wheelchair basically the entire event. I heard some pretty interesting speculation about what happened, but the truth is a lot more simple. I sacrificed my leg for a short-term power spike during the event. While that may have gotten me into top 8, I can't help but feel like if I gave up the other leg as well, I could have won the whole thing. Jokes aside, I tore my Achilles tendon the day before my flight out and basically had to be pushed around the whole event. So thank you to everybody who helped me out during the week. This finish means a ton to me, not just because it's going to help me pay my medical bills for my Achilles, but also because it's something I've been dreaming about for a very long time. Obviously, every competitive player wants to top a tier 4, and while I do think I'm a strong player, I was worried that that sort of success was something I'd never be able to realize in the game. This finish really turbocharged my desire to compete in order to see if I could do even better in the future. I wanted to shout out to all the people who helped me test for events, learn matchups, or even just borrow cards. You know who you are. I appreciate you all a ton, and I couldn't have done it without you. Like I mentioned earlier, this means we have another gold foil to crack, so let's get into it. Once again, I'm still hoping for a Storm Striders open. Every single time I open one of these, I pray it's Storm Striders. It hasn't happened yet, but I guess I'm just gonna have to keep winning events until it does. I'll also be excited with anything I can play in one of the current Wizard decks, because then I can justify keeping it and it'll be a pretty nice memento. All right, here we go. Oh, I always get so nervous. Okay, I'm gonna reveal this to you at the same time I'm going to see it. I haven't cracked it yet. Everybody ready? Here we go. Think Storm Strider's thoughts. Ready? Is that Dragon Scalar Flight Path? Oh wow, that rocks. Wrong boots, but those are pretty good ones. I'm not mad about that at all. Not too shabby, huh? All right, now the season might be over, but we still have a ton of fun stuff to look forward to until the new year. First up is Battle Hardened Vegas, which is going to be featuring the classic constructed format. We also have the final Blitz Skirmish season starting November 29th, which is going to have some pretty crazy prizes, including Cold Foil Everbloom Life and Consigned to Cosmos Shock. I'm going to be doing everything I can to get my hands on both of those. Calling Valencia is also on the weekend of the 29th, and while the Calling is classic constructed, the Battle Hardened on Sunday is going to be featuring the Silver Age format, which I am really excited to see in action. That wraps up today's show. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Majin Bay, and I'll see you next time on World Tour Weekly.